our country, our society, Western civilization, maybe all civilizations, just do not want to feel pain. So we numb that with drinking, shopping, be happy, don't worry, live for today. But in the grief-avoiding society, the way to move forward in grief is to face it and embrace it, dive deeply into it, and fully accept it.
The loss of a pet can reconfigure our entire sense of reality, leaving us to navigate a world that suddenly feels unfamiliar. I'm joined by Kaleel Sakakeeny, CEO and director of Animal Talks, Inc., a Boston-based nonprofit dedicated to supporting animals and those who love them.
Grief is grief is grief is grief, and each person suffers it differently, but there are universal experiences, universal feelings, and all love lost is love lost in pain.
Today we explore grief, shatter misconceptions surrounding it, and embrace the healing journey grieving entails. Finding ways to honor our feelings is critical, and remembering our cherished companions who loved us just as unconditionally as we loved and will always love them in return.
Grief does not go away by itself. It stays. You have to interact with it in a creative and constructive way to move forward.
I'm a minimalist who wants more, and your host, Reverend Eugen Bond. For more information, visit Enough-ism.com. Now, onto the show.
My name is Kaleel Sakakeeny. I'm the director, CEO of Animal Talks, Inc. Its mission is to help people mourning the loss of their animal friend, their animal companion, and need help really in their grief journey. I'm a grief counselor with a specialization in pet loss and grief. I'm also an ordained animal chaplain and an ordained non-denominational pastor.
So tell me, what are the different stages of grief someone experiences when they lose their animal friend, animal companion, beloved pet?
There really are no set stages of grief. Each person grieves differently. It's more like a spiral staircase than it is a kind of literal ramp. So classically, people will experience things in different ways. Principally, they'll experience a sense of unreality. I mean, consider this for a moment that for, let's say, 15, 18, 12 years, their brains, their entire neurology has been programmed to be with and live with this animal companion. How they walk into the house, when they feed the animal, how they talk, what friends come in. And all of a sudden, with the death of this animal companion, that reality has changed. And the mind is saying, what is going on? For 18 years, I've done it this way, as you've asked me to. Now I have no purpose for being. So the sense of losing one's mind is a classic characteristic of deep and profound grief. And it's almost literally true. They've lost the mind that they had when they were a pet parent. Following that very quickly, obviously, is a loss of appetite, lack of motivation, kind of lassitude, a kind of withdrawal and uncertainty, the deep sadness, which is more of a spiritual thing than a mental health issue. Those are some of the real acute experiences that people have when they're in the throes of grief and beginning their loss journey.
This was years ago, but I was at work, and one of my colleagues who was kind of cowered away in the corner of an office, and she was crying, and my colleagues went up to her. We said, "Hey, what's going on?" And she said, my cat just passed away, and I feel so stupid saying this. Like, I'm sitting here crying, and I don't know what to do, and do I go to work? Do I not? And we're like, no, go home. It's okay. Don't feel guilty, And it's completely understandable, because an animal's death can be very similar to loving someone in our lives. Like you said, if someone comes home and there's an emptiness, there's a sadness, that joy, that unconditional love is gone.
Your compassion is really admirable and beautiful, because a lot of people wouldn't say go home to the person, to the bereaved pet parent. They would say, well, that's too bad, was for bad. By the way, this report is due next week, or it's only a cat. And that really disenfranchises the grief. So this person was lucky to have you as a companion or a work colleague who was able to say, go home, do what you have to do.
Yeah, that's right. So obviously it depends how your pet passed away. There's so many different factors, right? Was it sudden? Was it unexpected? Was it where you knew your animal was sick and you're there trying to pay the vet bills?
It's a vexing question because people on the tip of their tongues, they want to make that comparison. They'll say things, or if they don't say it, they'll think it. Well, thank God it wasn't the child, or thank God it wasn't the spouse, or thank God it wasn't the friend. There's no hierarchy of grief. It's not like this being's death ranks here and this being's death ranks there. I mean, grief, love, and loss are all co-joined emotions. And so you can't make a comparison. Grief is grief. It hurts and it's painful and we go through it. So people asking that question are really doing a disservice to the spirit and to the heart and experience of the person. They're disenfranchising them by saying, wow, thank God it's not your brother or your cousin or your sister or whatever. Grief is grief is grief is grief. And each person suffers it differently, but there are universal experiences, universal feelings, and nobody should make those distinctions because all love lost is love lost in pain. When I talk to people or giving a lecture or a workshop, the instinct is to naturally make that comparison, but that's our way of protecting ourselves. Well, it wasn't a friend. But you know what? It's the same thing. It's a loss of love, period. And that has to be honored, and it's a sacred experience.
That's beautiful. It's a lot to love. And do you have like memories or stories or examples of helping someone kind of push through that grief and kind of break through to the other side? Because I imagine that early stage before you kind of accept it and push through is the hardest.
You know, not to be contrary, there is no other side to push through too.
Yeah.
With all due respect, I understand what you mean, but there is no other side. It's just simply a journey, and there's no end to the journey until you're dead. How long will I grieve? Well, the answer to the question is how long is the being that you love going to be dead? You will grieve and feel the pain for as long as that person or that animal is gone. Now, the pain softens, of course, over time, but it's untrue that time heals the pain. It really doesn't. Active mourning, active grieving, taking steps to work with the pain, with the loss is imperative. Left to itself, grief does not go away by itself. It stays. You have to interact with it in a creative and constructive way for it to move through, not to the other side so much, but to move forward. It's amazing. In the 2 years or 3 years that Animal Talks has come into being, we've had clients from almost all over the world. And they call from India, or they come from California, or wherever. And 8 out of 10 times when they call, say by phone, they're sobbing. Or when they send me an email, they're kind of much beyond grief, it's the comprehension of it. So yeah, it's really getting people to understand and accept that what they are feeling is authentic, is right. It's what should happen. And then learning to go with that grief. We are a grief-avoiding society, a grief-illiterate society. Our country, our society, Western civilization, maybe all civilizations, just do not want to feel pain. So we numb that with drinking, shopping, be happy, don't worry, live for today. But we have to understand that in a grief-avoiding society, the way to move forward in grief is to face it and embrace it, dive deeply into it, and fully accept it. It's the only way we're going to move along that journey.
Yeah.
I don't know any other way.
It's exactly right. I think we are taught. I mean, why was that woman standing there ashamed, crying?
Right. Exactly.
And it's because we're not taught to grieve properly, and it's so much easier to just distract yourself. Do you have anything to add about kind of like healthy steps to grieve or ways that are not healthy that you've kind of seen people gravitate towards?
It's going to go back to the question you asked, what sort of implied, and I really like the question, how the pet died
when your pet passes away,
Right.
it depends on the circumstances. Was it
Yes, it does.
expected, where you had time to kind of mentally prepare yourself? I mean, my dog growing up, I was 18 years old when my big German Shepherd passed away, and we knew he was, getting sick. And then still, it's incredibly hard to.
What was his name? What is his name?
His name was Dakota. We called him Cody. He's a giant, fluffy German Shepherd. Very sweet.
He was your sibling. If you lived with him for 18 years,
Absolutely. Yeah.
you grew up with him as a brother.
Yeah.
He wasn't a dog. He was your
No,
brother.
he's part of the family, 100%. Yeah.
Absolutely. And what happened when he passed?
When I go home to my family's house, I can still feel his presence. So I ring the doorbell, and sometimes I forget, he's not actually there. He passed away like 20 years ago,
Oh, isn't that fascinating?
I can feel his presence. And even, over the holidays, I went over to my parents' house, and in the morning, I open my eyes and I half expect my dog to be there ready to greet me in the morning. And he's not there anymore, So you can feel it. He's still there.
Just when you said you rang the doorbell, I was hearing a dog bark.
Yeah.
And there was no sound.
Yeah.
He wasn't there.
Yeah.
But you still carry him in your heart.
Oh, of course.
20 years later. What does that say about the human-animal connection? What does that say? What's it say to you?
When you're looking into the eyes of an animal and you have a bond, you have a connection, there's unconditional love, you feel it. You can't express words. A dog might not necessarily understand the context of human life. Like, they don't understand I'm on my computer working,
Right.
living, but they know, she's going to that corner of the room now to go stare at that screen for 6 hours. And, when she goes there, I know she won't come back for a long time. So they pick up on all of our cues, and, they know our habits, and they know if you put your shoes on that you're getting ready to leave. So there's this inseparable bond that you have. I mean, my German Shepherd, all the school buses would go past the house when I was a kid. He knew exactly which school bus my brother and I were on. He would start barking and all excited, and there could be 8 school buses go by. He'd just sit there. Oh, no, that's not the right bus. So we don't know how we did it. The scent, maybe.
Isn't it incredible? Is that incredible? No. It wasn't the scent. It was his love.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. That's incredible. You really know this stuff really well.
Yeah.
This plays into your question about suggestions for people. So did you have a ceremony? Did you do anything when he died, when Dakota died? What did you do with his ashes, with his pictures?
Yeah, I was away in college during finals, but we had a family friend. They were vets, so they came to the house when we were ready. There was a room in the house that our dog was never allowed to go in. We let him in that room the last couple of weeks, and his eyes lit up. He's like, "Oh, I'm not supposed to be here. This is exciting." We called the vet over. He gave him a shot or whatnot to help him pass away. His family was around him. And I wasn't there, but I mean, even telling the story, like, I feel like I was there. My memory, I can kind of picture it. And then we have a little vase with his ashes, and next to the ashes, we have a picture. My great-grandfather in like the 1890s also had a big German Shepherd. And there's this photo of him kind of standing there, playing with the dog. So we kind of put it there just to honor the other German Shepherd, from our family. I never met my great-grandfather. He passed away long before I was born. But there's just such a joy in his eyes. He's in the picture. He's sitting there looking at the dog smiling.
Well, you just answered the question about healthy things to do. Everything you'd said, in my opinion anyway, in my experience, is a way of easing the pain, which begins with acknowledging that the relationship is lodged in your heart, that you have his ashes, that you have the photograph, that there's continuity with the past, with the other German Shepherd, with your great-granddad, that even to this day, when you go home, you can say his name and honor his presence. These things that you're talking about that you've done are really the only healthy ways to mourn and to grieve and lessen the pain.
And, 20 years later, during COVID, my parents got another dog.
Oh.
A long time. And even, 5-10 years after my German Shepherd passed, we go to vacuum and we find a little dog toy that German Shepherd. They like to shove dog toys under the couches. He thought it was fun. So
Yeah.
we thought we found them all, but we find this like little ray of sunshine, some bone.
How long did you say your parents waited before they got another dog?
Oh, I'd say about 20 years.
20 years.
Yeah.
I wonder what made them decide to do that, to get another dog. Was it COVID, you said? Were you implying that?
The sense of community. I take walks with my family around the neighborhood. Everybody knows the dog. I know the neighbors, their dogs,
Yeah.
A lot of the dogs on my parents' streets have human names like Charlie and Bob. I guess it's trendy. And sometimes it'll take me a while to figure out, they're talking about their dog.
When an animal goes, when a pet goes, the house just has no heartbeat. It has no life.
There's an emptiness. I want to fill it with something.
So, I'm just learning from you as you keep on talking. I can almost picture Dakota and what it was. That image, though, for some reason, just stuck with me, ringing the doorbell or opening the door or waking up in the morning and fully expecting his presence.
And it takes me a couple of seconds to realize he's not here because you can feel the joy. He's coming to the door. Yeah. Did you grow up with dogs or cats?
Mostly, always with animals. Some cats, some dogs. Toward the end, the last couple of years, it's been mostly 2 cats. And that's how I got into this, because one of the cats, his name was Cairo. He was just a big, beautiful, all love is beautiful and great, but some loves are bigger than others. They just are big loves. And this cat was a big love of a cat. And when he passed, my world was totally turned upside down. I did all the wrong things at the time. I drank too much. I kind of wandered the streets. I went to therapists, and our medical model says that grief is a medical illness, or give you a pill for it. There's no pill for sadness, and I knew that. So I was totally lost, and there was no therapist or counselor that understood grief, let alone had grief. So that finally moved me to the one place that I found some solace and comfort, which was a theology school, where I began to go more deeply into a course that they had in animal chaplaincy. And their whole curriculum was designed to explore the sacred or divine nature of the animal-human bond. I remember Robert Louis Stevenson has said, a person who has not loved an animal has so much of their soul undiscovered, or animals have souls that the Dalai Lama would envy. That was my particular journey. And so, I did grow up with them, but this particular cat's passing was what set me on a path, and I believe to this day, he came into my life for that purpose and left my life and put me on this path. And that was his message to me, and still is.
That's beautiful. Is there anything you want to add at the end for where people can find you?
As you talk about your friend in the office, please don't be ashamed, anybody. If you're feeling the pain of losing your beloved animal companion, and reach out to us at animaltalksinc.com. Some resources there that might be helpful. Just follow your heart. Talk to us. We're here. We understand. It's a divine love. And so cherish it.
That's great.
Take care of yourself, okay?
Yeah, you too. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Hey, I'm Reverend Eugen Bond, host of the Enough-ism Podcast. If you're interested in meditation combined with journaling, check out my community of nearly 1,500 members worldwide at meetup.com/enoughism-podcast. For feedback, topic ideas, or to be a guest on the show, email me at enoughismpodcast@gmail.com. Discover more at IamEnoughism.com, including transcripts from former episodes and some of my new experiments with AI-generated meditation music. To support the show, consider donating on my Meetup page or Venmo to @Enough-ism. You are enough with what you have and what you are right now.